All right, let's talk about a couple guys the Pistons probably shouldn't pursue. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. We start off with big names. Check out Detroit Pistons Talk playlist. Kevin Durant just shows lack of leadership and just missing that intangible in this game. The Brooklyn locker room, that kind of wasn't his fault. It was more the whole, jab situation with Kyrie in New York, which he should have been apologized to if he hasn't been. And then the whole thing in Houston. Obviously you think that's a great fit for the Pistons before this season. You thought it was a great fit. I still think they kind of paid him to act like he was injured for the Lakers to make it to the second round, hoping that, Luka could get healthy. I think the NBA is an entertainment thing, but, that's my opinion. But, Kevin Durant, basketball-wise, it's a great fit. But he kind of missing the intangibles. You know what I'm saying? He missing some of them intangibles that you want him to have. And I think the Pistons have a strong locker room for that to possibly overcome Kevin Durant. But, probably giving up more than he worth at this point at 36, 37 years old. And then you get him and then you get to the playoffs and he's not there. I would rather either find a way to get Axel Lindenberg, Trey Murphy, Lloyd Marketing. I'd even prefer to go with a Bobby Portis, before I would go with him. Another guy's Kawhi Leonard. Ideally, basketball-wise, it's a great fit. Once again, it's a great fit. The Pistons have a lot of strong leadership in there with Cade and those guys. You put Kawhi next to Cade with Asar and Duran, and let's just say somehow you still able to get Trey Murphy or whoever at the 4 spot, or somebody that can just at least shoot it at the 4. Let's say you keep Tobias. That's probably most likely scenario. You got 4 really elite defenders out there. I think Duran can be elite when it's not playoff time. Cade is an elite. Sar is as good as it gets. Kawhi is as good as it gets. Even at this point, really down the stretch of basketball games, when it's time to clamp up. I mean, who do you switch? How do you switch? Tobias ain't a real bad defender. He older, but that's the one guy that you're going to have to switch to Cook. And somehow, some way, if they're able to find somebody at that 4 spot that's a little bit younger who can defend, maybe Portland might give you Jeremy Grant at this point. That's a huge upgrade over Tobias. So I get why people like it, but then again, 34 years old, is the knee issue fixed? We can manage that. If we don't give up too many assets and add enough shooting, we can manage that. But, really, there's other viable options you can go with they may not be Kawhi, but I think lower trade risk, high return still, high ROI, return on investment. I believe there's guys that you can get for the cheap and, or cheaper, a lot cheaper than Kawhi. And you probably get, good bang for your buck. A guy like, even if you go high like Kawhi and a Devin Booker, or if you stay low and somebody they may want to get rid of, like a Sacramento doing a fire sale, Levine or DeRozan or Monk, or whether you go out there and you look at a free agent like Norman Powell, you look to get a free agent like CJ McCollum. Some guys you can kind of go low on and get a big result from. Tyler Hero is just to the point with Tyler Hero, it's a lack of durability. Really good ball player, but every time Miami need him, and his body never changes. It's not like he pick up a weight, he work on durability. I think he'd be good in the backcourt, but once again, it's another guy. Defensively, can you get him to lock in? And that's a lot of the things about the guys you bring in that's not like Kawhi, is that you bring in a guy like Kawhi, you become one of the greatest defensive teams on paper in history. You know what I'm saying? You start bringing in Levine, you start bringing in Powell, you start talking about bringing in McCollum, you start trying to bring in Tyler Hero. The defense ain't the same as Kawhi Leonard. And that's what you really, really want. So if I can take Duncan Robinson out the lineup and I can get everything, what he could do shooting more offensive, but I can upgrade significantly defense. I think Hero has the athletic and the physical capabilities to be a better defender. But to me, it's just the durability issues that possibly kind of come along with him. You know what I mean? I think those are like, you like, you know, no. And really, none of these guys that I'm naming, if they made the move, I'm giving reasons why it makes sense, and then the reason why I believe it makes sense, and I'm giving the reason why I wouldn't do it. You know, just to kind of give you, you know, kind of let you know where, you know, where I'm coming from, you know. So, you know, but those are kind of the main guys that when I look out there and I be like, nah, and you could throw in a guy like Zion Williamson. It's just like, once a guy, again, any of these guys who struggle to shoot the ball, it's really Giannis. You know, let's talk about Giannis first. You know, you have to give up so much. The thing about Kawhi, you give up so much, you gain so much. Like when I give up a lot to get Kawhi, I upgrade Duncan Robinson, because that's what you're looking at. That's who you're looking at upgrade. I get good shooting still. I don't probably get the 41% shooting, but everything else I get elite defender, elite dribbler. Kawhi can play make, elite mid-range, a midi. You know what I'm saying? You know, I get a guy that also has the experience of not being a shooter coming into the league and telling Ausar Thompson, yeah, I couldn't shoot neither, but this is what I did. You get the mentorship. You get the character of Kawhi Leonard. You know what I'm saying? You get the silent leadership. Therefore, he won't overtalk K. You know, you get the championship experience. You get a lot for that risk, but the risk is, will he be healthy? If he can be healthy for 2 or 3 year window, really I'm looking at 3, but I'll take 2. I think I would do the deal. You look at Giannis, you give up so much, but then how do you conform the roster around Giannis and K? Because assuming you keep Duran and you keep Ausar Thompson, or you have to get rid of one of them at that point, you know what I mean? Like, shooting becomes a premium then. So once you get Giannis, you got to change so much. If you get Giannis, then somebody to 2, you know, you got to find more knockdown shooters, whether it's Klay Thompson, whether it's just, to me, it's just not the right fit for the Pistons. Unless they have a plan to put more scorers and shooters around Giannis and K. You know, and that's just my opinion. That's just not the right fit. Look at Zion, another guy, shooting has to be at the premium. The shooting is not there. You know, and you know, durability, once again, that's a common thing. Lack of durability, lack of shots. So, I mean, quite frankly, it's, you know, it's deep. It's a common thing with the guys, either locker room, kind of like maybe locker room issues, lack of shooting, you know, those are the common issues that we speaking about. And I'm going to the gym. Pray for me, y'all, in the afternoon rush. But hey, I got a good spot next to a nice Escalade. But yeah, that's just my list, man. I love to hear y'all chop it up, dissect it. You know, this ain't no monolith shit over here. Everybody got to think alike. Everybody has an opinion. As long as you don't get disrespectful, I won't get disrespectful. But hit the link in the description. Follow me everywhere: X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Spotify, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal.